Welcome to the Connection Cure, the space where we dive deep into what truly heals us, with presence, purpose, and the power of being real. Today's guest is somebody who embodies all of that. She's a confidence coach who doesn't just talk about mindset, she lives and breathes mind and body health. Through her work, she helps people reconnect with themselves on the inside and on the outside by building self-trust, inner strength, and unshakable confidence. So stay connected, join in the conversation, and I hope that it lands deeply for you. I'm so excited to have you on as my first guest, but also because you were the beginning of my journey through connection, not just with my mind, body, and purpose, but heavily more deep rooted within me. And I think it's so important to share this message with other people where we can connect our mind, body, and our spirit and our soul to our purpose. So to start with, how do you think you have an impact on people in this world to help them with their connections?
Oh, okay. I think massively when it comes to what I do for work and how I've grown as a person, because I focus massively on confidence inside and outside. So physical aspects, but mentally building connection is so heavily down to your confidence and how you feel within yourself. When we don't feel confident in ourselves, we don't feel grounded, we don't feel we're able to be as vulnerable and emotionally safe. So building your confidence massively builds your connection with your loved ones, your friends, family, everyone around you, because it just allows you to actually be more open and honest.
That is so true, because actually, saying that at the beginning there, the way that you've made me be able to connect with myself, to know who my friends are, and to know actually what I'm capable of, just comes down to my confidence, really. And I remember, for the people that don't know, before me and Grace were a couple, I stalked Grace for a very long time. And to even the point where I set notifications on Instagram. So I would get her live recordings through and her new posts through. And I was heavily invested. For an example, I would be going to work for my 9 to 5 job. And every morning I had the same routine to put my makeup on and get my hair done. And I would I actually am cracking up when I think about that I did this. Because now I've just got you live in front of me every morning. But I used to put my phone up on my mirror while I was doing my makeup, and I would listen to you every single morning. So that was the dedication I had to you from before you even knew it. But I remember then watching you and being like, and I really wanted to be coached by you. And I was in awe of you. I was so inspired. But I was like, I'm not good enough to be coached by you. And if we hadn't have gone to the same gym and crossed paths in conversation, and thank God we just fell in love with each other. But if that hadn't have happened, I don't even know if I would have had the confidence to reach out, even though I was watching you every day. So if you could go back and speak to me, knowing that that's how I felt, knowing that there's probably lots of other people out there that feel the same, what would you say to them?
I completely agree with you. I think that if you don't have confidence in yourself, then you don't take those steps forward. But I also think that we massively stay in our head far too much, and we care far too much about what people think about us. So most people, they go to the gym and they think, everyone's looking at me. Everyone is thinking, what are they doing? When actually everyone is all thinking that about other people, and they're all thinking that everyone else is thinking about them. But no one's actually fucking thinking about each other, because they're just thinking about themselves. So if I was to say to someone who lacks confidence to actually take that step forward, maybe it's to reach out to someone that they haven't spoken to in ages, someone that they're attracted to and they want to kind of spark up a conversation, a new job, whatever it is, get out of your head and just act, because so much of the time we procrastinate action and we just delay it because we fear this failure or rejection in that situation, but actually we're failing already by not acting. So it's
Yeah.
dropping your ego and just fucking doing it.
Do you think it's always ego? Because I think for me at that time, it wasn't ego at all because I just didn't have the confidence. I didn't believe that I was good enough for your coaching. So I
Mm.
wouldn't now, having the confidence and having the belief and having an ego, I wouldn't say that that was me having an ego. It would be me saying, don't listen to those people that have said you're not good enough. Don't listen to those people that have tried to suppress you. And if you want to do something, you are always good enough to do that thing. Just try. And actually, I think it's the opposite of ego. It's you need more ego drive to push against those people that have tried to suppress you. Would you not agree?
I don't necessarily agree, because I think the opposite of ego is self-love and self-acceptance, right? And those are the only two that you can have. There's ego and self-acceptance. And the reason that people don't feel confident in themselves in the first place is because of their ego and thinking that people care too much about them, or they fear failure, they fear rejection, they fear they're not good enough. All of those things, they stem from your ego. They stem from you not feeling worthy and you caring so much. When you actually come into a state of acceptance of yourself, you've lowered your ego. So if you're
Mm,
insecure, you're driven by your ego. Any insecurity, even if, I think ego's always kind of looked at in a weird way, where we think egotistical is like people that are really out there and they're in your face and they're loud and they're arrogant, right? But actually there's different scales to it. It's like insecurities. You can have really extroverted people who are in your face and they're overly loud to draw attention to themselves because they want that attention. Or you can have the other end, these people that are introverted and they're extremely timid and quiet and they kind of hide in the corner and don't say anything. We want to fall somewhere in the middle because we don't want to lose our ego completely. We also don't want to be overly self-accepting
mm.
that we almost don't have any ego. Like we need to be in the middle and bounce between that middle radius.
I hear you because, yeah, so basically what I was doing was I was having an ego by thinking that people would be thinking about me. And in actual fact, everybody's so worried about themselves that they actually don't have a lot of time to be worried about other people. Um, it's so interesting when we look at it like that, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah.
And actually, I used to be that loud person, and it would be like fake confidence. It would be like, hello, I'm
Yeah.
here. And then I think in lockdown, I actually had to have therapy around going to a social situation. And I don't know if you remember, but we went to that rave and I had a panic attack because there were so many people in this one small space. And for me, it was just completely overwhelming. And I actually had to have therapy, exposure therapy, to put myself back into those situations. And for me, being an extrovert, and actually, probably, I used to be really highly ego driven in the way of being bold and like, I'm here, center of attention. It was really strange for me to not feel like I could go to the pub, not feel like I could be in social situations. And now I feel like there's a really nice fine line of, yeah, I want to be this bright, vibrant person, but I'm also so okay with myself and my own time that I just don't need it anymore. It's not coming from a place of need. It's like, do I want to go to the pub?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I used to be exactly the same with that. Like I used to be in that place of being really loud and out there and angry and that was all stemming from my ego and my insecurity and wanting others to almost accept me and love me, and, you know, for me to stand out. And then I did the extreme as well, where I went so hard the other way, where I barely even spoke to anyone. And I was like, just want to fucking hide in a corner.
And I feel like
And
that was where you were when I first ever met you and you came back from Australia and you were like, I just don't want anyone
yeah,
near me.
it was like the two different extremes. It was like, I went from being in Australia, I got humbled massively. My ego got shot down hard in Australia. And I turned into this person that was like so insanely introverted.
How
And
did it, if you don't mind me asking?
how did it get shot down?
Yeah.
I think I put myself in situations with people that were like, when you're in a different country and you're living in a different country, they don't know you, they don't know your story, they're just seeing you for who you are at that time. And if you're not acting in a way that they like, they don't have to accept you. They can essentially just be like, fuck off, you're annoying, or that's bullshit. And I there were a few times where I almost was acting in a way to make myself seem maybe even like cooler than I was, or to fit in with a group of people. And there was just times where I kind of was like in that situation, and people would call me out and I'd be like, oh, okay, that felt really uncomfortable. Or I kind
Yeah.
of wasn't accepted into certain groups and I'd be like, oh, right, I don't really know where to go.
Why do you think that? Like, do you think that maybe in the past you hadn't been confronted as much, or did you always feel like you fitted in?
I don't think that I fitted in. Like, I don't think that, I think a lot of the time people were somewhat scared of me. So my fitting in wasn't really fitting in. It was like that people just feared me because I was
Mm.
angry, right? And then people aren't scared of you when they're at different ages. They're a lot older. Like, I was a baby when I went to Australia. I was 19 years old. So the people around me were all like 28, 30 plus. So they were just like, you're the fucking baby.
Yeah. I felt like I
So
got swept up and taken care of when I was traveling when I was 18. And I just loved it. It was like a nurturing I felt like I didn't have. And I was that angry person like you when I was younger as well. But like, so for people that are listening, if they maybe didn't experience it how we did of being angry, why do you feel like you were angry? Like, where was that anger coming from? And why was it only exposed when you took yourself out of the situation in front of people that could call you out and you took it on board to be humbled?
I think I was always angry at school from a young age. It didn't come out in Australia. But the reason that it was kind of exposed more was because at home you're in safety, right? So when you don't extend yourself out of your comfort zone, you don't travel to a new place, you stay within your friendship group that you've always been friends with your family that have always known you. They are safety, they're your little bubble of comfort. And when you take yourself out of that, you're then confronted with the reality of your life. And the reason that I had so much anger in me from a young age is, one, because I grew up with so much anger. Like, my dad's very angry, and I grew up seeing that. And I guess my anger probably came from not necessarily feeling seen or heard, and not knowing how to actually express my emotions. So in the easiest emotion for me was to feel anger rather than sadness or loneliness, because those felt more uncomfortable to feel. And so anger was always the thing that came up, like aggression, anger. That's why I loved playing sport and, you know, running around and being rough with it, because that was a really easy way of me to channel that energy out and just
So you
like
would have been
release
really good
it.
at rugby, basically.
I was fucking good at rugby. I was, honestly, when I was like 9 years old, I got put, when I went to a co-ed school, I got put in all of the boys' teams.
Really?
Football, rugby, hockey. I was in the boys' teams. I was the only girl in all of
Oh my
them.
gosh. I
Yeah.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Now that really does show you because I don't I don't know. Is that allowed now? Or maybe is it encouraged more? Like,
I think I don't know if it would be allowed now, but before puberty, girls are actually stronger than boys.
oh, and they do, don't they? Like tag rugby, their boys and girls aren't broken up. Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I wasn't a sporty gal, so I wouldn't know. Um, so I released my anger through words, and actually, it's really funny, isn't it? Because everything that we do as a child correlates to what we do as an adult. Like I was always good at drama. I was always good at English because I was good at putting my words out there, and I
Mhm.
used words to express my feelings. And I always like to play in drama roles of like psychopaths and schizophrenics and just people that had mental health problems. And that was
Yeah.
probably because I had such severe mental health problems. And actually, you being able to channel your anger into sport was healing a connection and being seen in a way that you weren't seen, obviously, at home.
Yeah. Yeah. 100%. And a good release of energy as a whole. You know, when we feel anxiety, when we have anxiety in our body and stress, we actually need to release it. That's why exercising is so good when you feel these emotions, is because you help release it. Otherwise, it gets trapped in it. You know, when you start becoming like really jittery, and it's essentially that fight or flight response where you just need to exert some sort of energy and just release a little bit.
Oh
So,
my God,
such a great way.
yeah, like straight away, when I remember my riddling anxiety, and even now when anxiety comes in as an emotion for me, my teeth chatter and put so much pressure on my temple. Like my everyone experiences their anxiety in different ways within
Mm-hmm.
their body. Mine goes straight to my temples, my teeth, and my stomach. And I think that if those signs when I was a child, because I was like diagnosed with IBS, asthma, so many different health conditions, it was just all anxiety. But if that had been noticed, then my anxiety could have been understood so much earlier on. Being disconnected, throwing yourself into sport, how did your body respond to that? Did you have like health problems within your body from your mind?
Mm, so I wouldn't say that I experienced my first memory of anxiety, and the feeling of anxiety didn't come until I was about 16, 17. So
Okay.
even though I didn't know what it was. And that was the first time that I had a panic attack. And it's actually because I got in shit at school and my head teacher asked to speak to me. And I was like shitting myself. Um, so that was the first time I actually remember going, oh, wow, like that was weird. That felt really, really shit. But I think that for
Mm.
me, because I was so active, and school was a bit of an escape for me, but also at the same time I really didn't like school. uh it was a very mixed bag, but because I was so active, I almost didn't have time. I didn't have those emotions to feel it, because some days I was training like three times a day, and then every day I would have like lunch and then after school training, and then so every single day of the week bar Sunday I was training in something. And I think
Yeah, oh
that's
my
probably
God.
what carried me through massively. And what happened when I reached like 17 was I then started to stop exercising. I started to drink alcohol more. I started to get into these gaining weight, eating food. I was eating
Mm.
similar foods, and I had issue with my diet when I was younger, but I never noticed it because I was so active that I never put on any weight. So even if I ate, you know, I remember once I bought a whole freaking tub of Biscoff ice cream to school. I ate the whole thing in a day,
Yeah,
and I felt
I'm
sick.
sure that many people can relate to that. Like, I actually remember I went over to my neighbor's house and they got out a tub of Haagen-Dazs, and there was a group
Oh.
of us and they got actually out a few tubs. And I was like, "You're gonna eat the whole tub?" And they were like really active, really physically fit.
Mm.
And for them, they were like, "Well, what do you mean? Have you never done this before?" And I'm like, "No, like, there's no way I could do that. I would put weight on like that." Now I know I wouldn't put weight on like that. That was my disorder. But at the time, I didn't know that that was a disorder. But even with the way that you just spoke, you do you think you would have felt anxiety and had anxiety, but you just didn't know what it was until you were that age?
Yeah, I think that I I think I had it, but I think I grew up in such a kind of turbulent emotional space because obviously there were six kids, my parents, and from the beginning we grew up in like our house being built and disagreements, and obviously six kids is hectic anyway.
Yeah, it's a
And
lot.
so I grew up, my initial years was me living in a porta cabin with my whole family while the house was being built, all in
The
one
eight of
space.
you.
Yeah. So like I think I probably was so used to that feeling it was normal to me and it
Mm,
felt normal. And I think I probably always had it because my mum struggled with depression for quite a long period of my younger years as well. And I think that I probably felt it and I had it. And the fact that I was so active and sporty probably helped it massively. But that's why, for me, everything hit the fan when I got to like started slowing down actively 16, 17. And then when I came out of school, that's when it all hit me. So I think it was always there, but it was being covered through the fact that I was relatively active. I had the distraction of school. I wasn't drinking. I ate pretty healthy anyway. And then boom, it hit me all at once.
and it was like seen as normal. It sounds to me like your whole life until that point, you were taught that it was almost normal to be anxious and depressed and angry. And then when you took yourself out of that environment that was classed as normal and you were exposed to different ways of being, that's when you were humbled and you were like, shit, this isn't normal.
Mm, yeah.
So,
Yeah.
would you say that even though you were heavily humbled and triggered to have more anxiety during your time in Australia, you actually were more connected to yourself than ever?
Yeah. I would say that it I think I wouldn't say initially when I was feeling the anxiety, the depression, I would say maybe I was connected to myself, but also it's very difficult because I went through phases of heavy drinking and taking drugs. So I would say that that would have disconnected me massively.
Yeah.
And I think that that needed to happen for me to be exposed to then hit rock bottom to then turn that around. So it didn't make me more connected. It probably made me more disconnected, but that's what led me down to this space of like not actually being able to have another option other than change it or like shit's going to get really real and you're going to fuck something up. So I was only given one choice in that moment, which was do something about it and make a change.
What do you mean like something would have happened? Like fuck something up. Like what did that look like for you?
I think I was in a such a bad space mentally that I was having thoughts, suicidal thoughts. I was having negative thoughts around myself, around actioning things. And the way sometimes the way that I used to channel my painful feeling would be like I'd rather be in physical pain than mental pain. And that's where obviously exercise did really well for me. But sometimes I'd sit there and be like, I would literally rather break my leg right now than feel the pain that I'm feeling in my head because it would
Yeah.
just take it away. I never actually self harmed. I never did anything that would harm myself in that way. I abused myself when it came to like drugs and drinking alcohol a lot. Uh, but for me, I was like putting myself in a danger, and it wasn't just me. I wasn't. near the point of actually doing something, but I knew that if I left it much longer, then I would be in that space. And I think recognizing that and going, I'm in a position where I can actually pull myself out rather than allowing myself to sink even more and then finding like no way out was massive for me. And that was like the turning point when I went to the doctor and they said that I might have bipolar, and it was a 15-minute consultation. So he should not have said that at all. But that for me was actually almost a blessing in disguise, because it was the wake up call that I needed to go, shit, I need to like do something about this. I need to make a change. Because I think you also have to think in those moments, you're not just impacting yourself, you're impacting those that love you as well. Like my mum was impacted so severely by me being in such a negative space, because I was trying to lean on her, but everything that she would say wouldn't help me, because only I could help myself. There was no one that could be able to physically help me. I had to pull myself out of that. People could say,
Yeah.
I'm here for you, you know, I'm here if you need to speak. But at the end of the day, you're the only person that can truly pull yourself out of that slump.
Yeah. And did that make you feel more connected to her afterwards? Because now, are you able to hold compassion? You said that she was depressed when you were younger. Are you able now to hold compassion for maybe how she was in that time? And that's maybe helped you be more connected now?
Yeah, I would say that experiencing any mental challenges and you coming through the other side definitely helps you be able to understand what people are going through. And I 100% understand why she would have experienced depression and what she went through herself. Like having 6 kids anyway is fucking mental,
I know
like
it's
absolutely
crazy.
not. But I think the thing that allows you to actually be compassionate to other people in the first place is having compassion for yourself.
Yeah,
Otherwise, you don't have any compassion. And I think a lot of people, I do see this a lot now, is a lot of people have fake compassion where they almost try to be like, oh, yeah, but it's okay. You know, they've got this going on. But actually, it's almost like false positivity, whereas when you have true compassion for someone, you don't just have compassion and say, I'm here to support you. You also hold them accountable when they need it.
yeah,
Right. So it's not just being really, really gentle with someone. It's also going, right, how can I help you take action? What are you going to do about this? How can we move forward?
yeah. It's like criticizing with compassion. It's like
Yeah.
you can criticize somebody and say, I don't understand why they're doing this. But how I just said that is really judgmental. And if I then turned it around and said, I don't understand why they're doing that to themselves, that's compassionate, but it's still criticizing. And I think there's a huge difference, isn't there?
Mm. Yeah. And I think the intention behind it is massive. Like if you're, and I think this is where a lot of people kind of miss the idea of what the intention of what people are coming from and the angle people are coming from. Because I think a lot of the time, if people don't want to help themselves, which I see so much, I see people fall into this victim mentality. I have been there. I've been sitting there going, why has everything happened to me? Why is, you know, why do I have a shit life? Why is this happening? People have that mentality. But I think that a lot of the time, people struggle to actually take responsibility for their actions themselves. And I think that when we're over compassionate towards people, it's basically just us almost giving ourselves permission to treat ourselves like shit. And
Yeah,
people will call it self-love.
yeah, yeah. It's like going, let them too much. But then it's
Yeah.
also going, let me too much. It's like, oh, well, I'll just let myself do this and hope for the best. It's like, no, 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 you can't hope for the best. You
Yeah.
have to make the best happen from your actions and your intentions.
Yeah. And I think that's where it's everything in life falls down to sitting somewhere in the middle and balancing
Yeah,
between the two. You know, you look at introverted and extroverted, you want to actually be in the middle where you can socialize and you can be out there with people, but also you can have time alone and really embody that and embrace that. And then when it comes to self-compassion and tough love, you need to give yourself fucking tough love sometimes. I do it all the time
Yeah.
where I'm like, get your shit together. Like other people are counting on you. You are counting on you. Start acting. But also there's times where I need to be like, Grace, do you know what? You know, you're feeling exhausted, you're PMS, maybe just cut it back a little bit and be accepting of that because that allows you to push forward. And I think so many people are going to extremes, right? It's
Yeah.
going into the extreme of cut everything out and you can't do this and you can't do that, or do everything, take loads of drugs, drink loads of alcohol, eat shit, right? What
Yeah.
happened to staying in the middle somewhere and just balancing it out? And I think that's where a lot of people are struggling with, is just the extremes, every
Yeah.
extreme.
No, you're so right. Because actually, when I look at my life, because that's all you can do is you can only ever relate something to yourself because only you know how you feel. And whenever I've been at my worst, it's been for an extreme reason. When I've been at my best and my most confident, it's always been when I've been able to go, Alexina, you've done the work. Take your foot off the pedal. Oh, but Alexina, you made a commitment to yourself to do that run, so go and do that run. Like,
Mm-hmm.
and having that backward and forward conversation with yourself. Like, how can we expect to be connected to another through conversation? Because that's where connection comes from. If we aren't actually having a conversation and communicating with ourselves.
Yeah. And that is people staying too much in their own head rather than actually having that active conversation. You have to
Mm.
actually pay attention to your thoughts that you're having toward yourself, right? How you're speaking, your dialogue that you use towards yourself, because that's a reflection of how you then see other people.
But how would you say to somebody that's really struggling in their mind and their head just feels consumed by other people's maybe opinions or assumptions, and they can't see clearly the conversation that they need to have with themselves because they're so focused on the conversation that might be happening outside their head? What
Yeah.
would you say to get them back in their body and their mind?
So I would say that when we look at how we speak to ourselves, there's a few things that you can change within your state. So your mental, physical, and emotional well-being. When we look at this, we have three things that we want to focus on. So you have your physiology, your language, and your attention and focus. Your physiology is the easiest way to change your state as quickly as possible. So
Okay.
the easiest way of getting out of your head. So if I say to you right now, stand up and fucking jump around the room and shake your hands. Like,
Okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna do it. We're gonna make it happen. So I'm gonna
so
stand up.
just shake your body around. Right. How much are you in your head right now?
I'm focusing on my hands being here, there, and everywhere.
So your physiology is the simplest way to get out really quickly out of your mental state. So it might be, if I'm having a shit day, sometimes I'll literally just say to myself, can you shut the fuck up? Like, I literally call it out to myself. I'll be like, shut up. Why are you speaking to yourself like shit? And you actually saying that to yourself can make it a little bit humorous as well, because you
Like
can almost laugh at
now,
yourself.
I feel like energized, and I feel like going, "Come on, Alexina."
Yeah. Yeah. So that's why is all of that energy is stuck in our body, right? And that's where you can change it. So your physiology comes down to your posture, how you hold yourself. People that are depressed, they'll slouch over, they'll make themselves as small as possible. People who are confident, energized, they'll make themselves big, right? If you look at an animal, right? When they want to scare someone, another animal off, they'll make themselves as big as possible to be like, I'm
Yeah.
here, right?
And
And then
like
the other
when
animal's
birds
like,
want to be attractive, they
yeah, they're
spread
like,
their
woo,
wings and they go
yeah.
really colorful. And
Yeah,
they're like, hello.
vibrant, big, because that is breathing like confidence and power and making themselves known, right? So physiology, not only does it come down to your posture, your movement that you take, it also falls down to the nutrition, your nutrition, what you're putting in your body. and
Mhm.
it also falls down to your activity that you do. So your physiology is the quickest one that you can do in that instant. The second thing being your language is the words that you say to yourself. So like I just said, calling yourself out and being like, can you shut the fuck up? And just like having a laugh with yourself
Oh, so
about
that's number
you
two.
talking, right? So language is you calling, it's paying attention to how you're speaking to yourself. If you keep saying to yourself, you're lazy, you're fat, you'll never get anything right, then of course you're going to think that, because where attention
Yeah, and
goes, energy flows.
it like makes me immediately go in on myself. Like I'm listening to you, and I am a feeler. I'm a receptive. So whatever you say and feel, I'll replicate. And
Yeah.
immediately when you were saying that, I was going in, and
Yeah.
my face was changing. I was like, oh,
Because they're lower vibrations for you to say. So instead of that, when you pay attention to how you start speaking to yourself, you can then change it, because it starts with attention. If you're not having any attention to what you're doing, you can't change anything. You first have to pay attention to it. It doesn't mean that you're not going to say shit to yourself that is not very beneficial. I still do occasionally, where I'm like, well, that wasn't very nice. But it's about how frequent those things come up. So gradually, progress is really, it's not saying that you'll never do it. It's saying that the time that I do it becomes further and further apart, and it becomes less
yeah,
and less. The same with everything. That's progress. It's not that you stop doing it completely. It's just it becomes less and less and less.
yeah. It's like when I now struggle with anxiety, I recover so much quicker.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's the same with like when I used to binge eat. How I knew I was progressing was because I binged less and I
Oh yeah,
binged,
yeah.
and the time in which it got me to get back on track, it was quick. Now I have no idea when the last time I was to binge. I've overeaten, but have I binged? No, I've not set out to actually actively binge. I've 100% overeaten. That's completely normal. They're very different things. And
Mm,
then, so you have your physiology, you have your language, and then you have your attention and focus. And that's why I said where attention goes, energy flows. So I think Tony Robbins actually said that, which is where you place your attention, you give it power, right? You give it energy. And
yeah,
so you can put that into your language as well. Every single thought that you give attention to, you're giving it energy. So this falls down to not just the people around you and you're paying attention to, not just your thoughts, it's also what you watch on TV and what you absorb on TV. We stopped watching freaking some scary shit because both of us were bloody scared. Two girls, both terrified when you go to sleep, is not enjoyable. Okay, we had
but
it
I don't
once.
even think that's like two girls. I just think anybody that is consuming a program that affects your nervous system to have feelings that you wouldn't choose to have, it's going to impact you,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, for sure. And it's going to make you feel a certain way. It's essentially like fake dopamine, isn't it? My
Yeah.
friend who studied uh criminology, and she did the test on like what was it, horror films, and how it's actually you spiking your dopamine, but it's like fake dopamine,
Mm,
right? Like drinking alcohol, eating shit food, all of these things, which I thought was really interesting, because I know when I was younger I used to watch horror films all the time, not because they didn't scare me, like they absolutely scared me, but they almost took me away from what I was feeling in that moment. So I think
yeah.
that your attention and focus, not just what you watch on TV, but also social media and who you
Yeah.
spend time with. If you're spending time with people that have a shit mindset, they have a fixed mindset, they think that they're just fixed and life is all planned out for them and they can't do anything about it, that's what you are going to adopt as well. When it comes to watching the news is created to make you fear things in
Yeah.
life. We're not supposed to carry that much knowledge about the world's issues. Back 100,000 years ago, we didn't even bloody see anything. We didn't know anything
Yeah,
other
we
than in
wouldn't
our
know what was
community.
going on in the next like county, let alone
No.
the whole world. And
Yeah.
it consumes you. I don't think people realize like how when you take an energy in, whether or not it is social media, who you're spending time with, the news, how much that stores within you. Because we as humans stay in our thought part of our brain, and the thoughts do go round unless you decide to take control of those thoughts, to let them go, to then allow a new thought in. So, and those thoughts then create feelings. So it's like, if we're not choosing what we're consuming,
Yeah.
then it all just stays riddled within you. And it makes so much sense why I was riddled with anxiety, because I felt as a child I didn't have a lot of control of my life. And I think, as you'll know this from the story that you've just told us today, and it does relate to me, is we didn't have a lot of control as a child. We also weren't looked at like we were given control. A lot of control was taken from us because it had to be this way because the parent says so. And there wasn't almost respect from parent to child, which there always needs to be, because you need to empower a child to have control of themselves so they understand when they're an adult how to have the control.
Mm-hmm.
So it should be enforced, not pulled away from them. And now that we as adults have control, we can gain so much more connection because we're not choosing to watch those horror films and the news. And it makes so much sense to the connection that we have in our lives now, and to not be riddled with anxiety and depression.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's so true. I think that we there's so many things in our world now that is like the norm, right? If you speak
Yeah.
to most people, they'll be like, you don't watch the news. And I remember when we first started seeing each other, you were like baffled that I
I
didn't listen
I
to the
would get
news.
the notification
Yeah, I
of
told you to
news,
turn it
and
off.
you
I
were
was like,
like, "What are you doing?" And I was like, "Well, I like to know what's going on because it was COVID. Like, we were coming out of COVID when we met, and before that, I didn't have it, to be fair. But I met one friend that had it, and she actually encouraged me to get it. Interestingly, now I'm no longer connected to that person because we live very different lives. But that's part of it, is like, why are you encouraging this negativity in your life? And you were like, no, get it out.
yeah. I think, do you know what? The time that I actually I had the BBC News app on my phone. And the time that I deleted it was actually when I lived in Australia, because the reason I deleted it is because London got bombed, or no, London got, there was a knife attack, right? And one of my sisters was, obviously my sisters were living in London, and one of my sisters, she didn't respond to like our messages for hours. And we were like, Haley, where the fuck are you? Like, is
Yeah,
everything
that is
okay?
so worrying.
Yeah.
Like,
And we
I've got
were,
shivers over my body now, and it's not even happening.
yeah. So I absolutely shit myself because I had all of these notifications coming through my phone, and I was like, this is causing me so much anxiety. So I just deleted it then and there. I was like, no, I'm not having it. And I think that's a key sign, is like, if it is relevant to you, you will know about it because the people
Yeah.
you love will tell you about it. For example, something happening in London, every single one of us is going to know very quickly whether something is going to happen or happening in London because it's relevant to us, to where we live.
Yeah, well,
But if
there was eight
something's,
of you, and quite a few of them lived in London, right, at the
yeah.
time.
But even then, like living where we do now, you're going to know about what's going on in London because we could
Yeah.
travel and it could affect us. But then you have things that are happening hundreds of like miles and miles away, right? Thousands of miles away. And it's no relevance to us. It's not impacting us. And people will say, yeah, but you can do something about it. And it's like, but what? Like, what can you physically do right now about it? So I think
Yeah.
a lot of the time, and that's where it comes, I quite like Jordan Peterson saying, which is get your house in order before trying to change others, which is
Yeah.
a lot of people don't have their own life in order. They don't have the career they want. They don't have the relationship they want. They don't have the health they want. Yet they're trying to go and change other things in the world before they've
Yeah.
got their own shit in order. And it's like, how
Yeah,
can
I
you even
get
do
you.
that?
I get you. But what you're saying there, just to clarify it, it's not that you don't have compassion towards these things happening in the world, and you still put out positive energy to wish the best for those people, and
100%.
you would still donate to charities and raise money for good causes. It's just you don't need to consume that information every single day
Hmm.
for it to have that impact on what's happening out there.
Yeah,
Because
because I
what
think that,
use is that doing? You
yeah,
consuming it every single day.
it's doing absolutely nothing. Like so much of what happens in the world, I freaking cry over everything. I'm very emotionally
Mm.
impacted by so much that I see. You know, I see a bloody reunion on TikTok last night. I cried like 3 times watching TikTok. I cried
Mm.
about bloody a deaf kid hearing his mum's voice for the first time, and like a baby seeing her mum for the first time, and I was like, it's just so emotional. But like, I don't think people quite understand how impactful it is to your brain to see such violence and hate in the world. It is
Yeah.
not healthy. It's not healthy. And if you think about the danger and the wars that we would have had, you know, in 900 AD, things like that, they would have happened, but they wouldn't have been all the time. Whereas now we're so connected with the world, there's always something happening. Every single place you think of,
Yeah, you
there is
can
something
very
happening.
quickly consume your mind with negativity, even if you're not choosing it. So when you can choose it, you should choose it.
Yeah.
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 If you could say, like right now, obviously you're making these choices to be more connected with yourself, with the things that are important to you in life. And that's really helping your mental health, your emotional health, and your physical health. If you could say one thing right now where you are really thriving and it's helping your connection, what would that be to inspire others that maybe they're not doing that thing and maybe that would help them?
For me, there's a few different things that I would say that you can build up to, but the key thing that helps and allows my relationship to thrive and my career to thrive is focusing on my health. So, from a simple standpoint, your sleep routine and getting that in a good space, your nutrition and focusing on simplicity, the simple side of that, hydration, super key. And once you've got those kind of basic habits down, you can then add on top of that, because then you can get into like a morning routine. You know, myself, when you met me, I was like, my morning routine was super important. And it's not to be like, yeah, I wake up at this time and I fucking jump in a cold shower and it's great. I don't actually enjoy having a cold shower in the morning. But the reason I do it is because it makes me feel so energized and so good. It's not for anyone else. I've done it for the past 7 years, 8 years maybe, and it makes me feel amazing. So I would say get the simple, basic, fundamental things to do with your health in order, and it will make
Mm.
things, everything else, become so much easier. Because when you feel good in yourself, when you're taking action and you're doing what you said you were going to do, your relationship becomes a lot more connected because you're feeling
Yeah.
good in yourself. You're not coming from a place of insecurity. You're coming from a place of empowerment. You're able to hold space for each other. The same goes for your career. If you have confidence in yourself, because confidence comes from you following through with what you said you were going to do, that's where confidence stems from, then your career is going to excel because you're going to walk into a room and be like, I deserve to be here. Like,
Yeah.
this is where I'm supposed to be. I belong here. And actually, I want a pay rise because I deserve more.
Yeah. And on that, I think that says it all to how you guided me and helped me get where I am. It's not just because we're in a relationship and you want the best for me because you love me to pieces. It's also because you have encouraged me to reach for my goals, for my health goals. And when I really was challenging myself and pushing myself to achieve those health goals, I gained more clarity on my purpose and the direction I wanted to go in with my career. And that also then strengthened our relationship, because then when I started having my own voice and standing up for myself and my own purpose, we had our own identities. And that really then helped our relationship. So, you know, it's quite incredible what you do. And this is what you do for work, right? Is you help people, not just on the outside with how they look, what they weigh, and like their fitness level. It's also, how are you inside? What's the message that you're telling yourself? How connected are you to your loved ones? How connected are you to having that intimacy in your life? And for the people that struggle with anything that we've spoken about today, I just want to say I know I'm a little bit biased because I love you, but number one advocate, you are incredible at what you do. And I'm going to put your link here in the little description of your Instagram account. So if anyone does relate to what we've spoken about today and you would like to reach out to Grace for support or some guidance, then check out her Instagram, drop her a message, because she is quite literally insane at what she does. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. We'll do it again because I know that this is going to be super, super valuable. And we'll do one together as well on the same
Yeah,
sofa.
100%. I think that would be fun to do one together.
Yeah. Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.